Guys, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. The next time you're looking to add the newest wrestling figures to your lineup, you've got to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Started by collectors for collectors around the globe, Wrestling Collector Shop has been serving fans the latest and greatest in wrestling action figures since 2002. Whether you're looking for basics, elites, or ultimates, Wrestling Collector Shop should be your first stop the next time you're looking for wrestling figures. So make sure to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com and use code SWOGGLE to save yourself 10% on your order. Again, that's 10% off with code SWOGGLE only at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Hey guys! Guys, you saw in the title. It's a small talk. It's my friend, Chavo Guerrero, and I, sitting down, yucking it up, flapping our gums. Before we go any further, I'm Dylan. That's George. George, hit him with our stuff.
Guys, another exciting episode of Going Postl here. A small talk like Dylan just said, but before we get into it, make sure to follow along on all forms of social media at Going Postl Pod. Be sure to follow Dylan at Dylan Postl. Make sure to follow PodXchange on Twitter, X at PodXchange. It's PodXchange. YouTube.com/Dylan Postl. DylanPostl.com. ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle. And SwoggleAuction.com. Get yourself a free $10 credit over at Whatnot. Dylan, when is the next Whatnot stream?
The next Whatnot, I'm going to schedule it tonight. The next Whatnot will be Wednesday, September 4th on Whatnot. We're doing it big. We're doing it live. We are doing it.
Man, oh man. You love a good Whatnot stream.
Ow.
And of course, guys.
Hold on. Landon's saying no. Why not? You have football practice. You can't go to that. Guys, we're keeping this in.
All right,
Guys, we're having a very back and forth here between my son and I, because September 4th is Dynamite in Milwaukee, and he doesn't want to miss it. I understand that, but you don't want to take any chance of football. Here we go. We're going to figure it out. It's going to be either September 4th or September 11th. Either way, Whatnot, SwoggleAuction.com. Get yourself money for free to use on Whatnot.
Yes, and of course, as always, make sure to check out the official PodXchange store where you can get merchandise for this podcast, the Game Marks podcast, and Dylan's other shows. State of Affairs over at PodXchange.shop. That is PodXchange.shop. But Dylan,
we just recorded, sorry to interrupt like I always do, but we just recorded, Shoes and I, a watch along. Sign up now. Join us for social dinnering. Do the watch. We're doing a live watch along. We're in the Discord. It's actually, the poll is up right now where you guys pick the topic for the watch along. It's going to be fun, like the Beach Boys said.
And all of that is available at patreon.com/PodXchange. I've already spelled it 2 times. I don't think we need to spell it a third time.
PodXchange.
Yep, he's got it. But Dylan, are you ready to sit down and throw to your interview?
So this is one of those where I didn't know. George sends me a list of people that I could interview. The list is probably at this point 219 people long. And I never, you know how this goes. We talk about it every episode that I do an interview, every small talk, where I don't think it's going to be good because I'm worried about me not being a good interviewer. I'm worried about me interrupting. I'm worried about us just not having a good back and forth. This one was surprising, I think.
I think it was great. And you get better every time. I say it every time you do one of these. You just get more and more comfortable. It flows a whole lot better each and every time. I think you are subconsciously just accepting yourself as someone who does interviews now, and it shows. But We're going to go to the interview now, but what do we got to do first?
Now's the time.
Yeah, what do we got to do?
Ad break! Are you a fan of Disney, Pixar, Jurassic Park, The Office, or even WWE? Or maybe you just want a sleek and comfortable patterned shirt? Then you need to check out Roosevelts.com. RSVLTS.com today. Roosevelt's makes the most eye-catching and comfortable shirts going today. Whether it's button-ups, or polos, or hoodies, or even hats, and everything in between, Roosevelt's truly has something for everyone. Made for those with the love of sports, pop culture, and so much more. And above all else, having a kick-ass time. This clothing is for the bold and fun, for those who dare mighty things. Roosevelts.com. Check them out. Guys, it's another episode of Small Talk. And this week, a friend of mine, most importantly, a friend of Pepe, a pro golfer, and a guy that has appeared literally on every major wrestling promotion and company. My friend, Chavo Guerrero. Hello. Hi, guy.
What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Good. I mentioned working for literally every company, and it was kind of mind-blowing to me because obviously your whole career has been so long and like you've done it all, but to be able to check that box off of literally everyone is incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to say like I kind of work for everybody, so I know about all of them, who was good, who sucked, I have the personal experience on all of them.
And that's a fun thing too, where you can go back and be like, oh, well, yeah, I was there for that. Oh, I was there for that too. Like,
yeah, man, from everything. I mean, from like the start of everybody asks me, "What's your best organization you ever worked for?" And I'm like, well, gosh, I love the start of WCW when we were all young, like me and Kidman and like Alex Wright and like all these cruiserweights. That was fun, man. But the start of WWE was awesome as well. Like me and Eddie was doing the Los Guerreros run.
Yeah,
man, that was WWE was a really cool time. Right before they got super corporate,
Yeah. Yep.
I guess they were already corporate because they had already been, on the stock exchange. But then right before they got super, super corporate, and then things definitely changed to that. But man, it was a good time there,
So looking back as a teenager, going into high school and that, which I'm going to age you here. The most interesting part for me is like the buyout era and like the end, towards unfortunately the end of WCW, but like into the invasion and all that. Were you worried at all during like that last day, or was it like okay, now is time to see what happens?
I wasn't worried at all. Man, I had no worries. I'm still young in my career. I was probably 4 years in, maybe. So I guess naively, I wasn't. I was like, no big deal. If we don't, go to WWE, then I'll go to New Japan or I'll go to Mexico or I'll be over. I was still young and still a kind of uploaded prospect. So that's kind of cool. I had other options. It was cool, So, of course, Eddie was over in WWF at the time. He had left about just a year and a half earlier before we did with the Radicals, and they went over there. So, man, I wasn't worried. And then, having my contract picked up, what was it, like, I don't know, 19 contracts or 20 contracts, whatever it was, picked up, from WCW, and we had over like 200 wrestlers, so that was a pretty cool thing to go over there and get that offer. And then man, I kind of just had I knew that my career had just really was on the up and up and was actually getting better and better and better, and I was just kind of getting like finding my groove a little bit.
Did you notice others that were like worried on that last day?
Oh yeah. A lot of the big guys were worried, I could see it, like the guys that weren't going to that knew they could not go to WWE. Like, like, not that Lex, like Lex Luger. I'm not saying that he was worried, but guys like in that position. Now they'd made a lot of money. They'd made a lot of money in both organizations, but you know, you make a lot, you spend a lot too. So I knew a lot of those guys were not going over, you know, they didn't want them, you know, they burned bridges already. So, you know, where are they going to go now? You know, is a guy like Lex going to go to start wrestling Japan in strong style? I wouldn't want to do that, you know,
especially at that point where he was
at that point. Yeah. You know, so, you know, and unfortunately, you know, that kind of screwed him up and he had a little downfall and all that, but, great to see him, you know, doing well again.
He's great. Like I always see him now at the appearances, and he's always like the highest of spirits, just happy and like loving life.
You know, it's cool because he wasn't like that. He wasn't that guy, you know, and unfortunately, you know, the circumstances that kind of turned him back into that guy, but, he's such a pleasure to talk to, man. I see Lex all the time and talk to him all the time. And it's really cool just to, you know, just to see where he's come from. Cause he could be a salty asshole, you know, and could be like this bullshit.
He should be.
It could be. And you know, man, it's really cool to see that, man, and learning from that, you know, for sure.
Yeah. So again, going into my late high school years, like the first time I remember thinking, oh man, this is like actual wrestling was the tag stuff with you and Eddie and Benoit and Angle and then Ray and Edge of like the SmackDown 6 that everyone at the time called it.
Yeah.
Was that immediately like you guys knew you had something? Was it like a thing where you guys knew at that point you weren't in the focus, so you had to just, hey, kind of shove it up their ass and be like, hey, we're gonna blow your guys' socks off with this?
You know what? I look back at it now and I look at some of those matches. I go, man, we were good. God, those matches were so good. But at the time we were just going. We were like, like, you know, we had pedal to the metal. We were just going. We were firing on all cylinders. And, God, man, you know, Eddie and I, we just had so much chemistry and so much confidence. I remember one time, Hogan had come back, you know, and he was hot, man. He was hot. He was doing that, just the WrestleMania with Rock, got over that.
Yep.
And that, man, dude, he was really hot again. And, it was a SmackDown TV and he went out before us. It was me and Eddie versus, I don't know, maybe it was Edge and Mysterio or somebody. And, he blew the roof off. I mean, blew the roof off. So Michael Hayes looks at me and goes, oh man, Chavo, I'm sorry you guys have to follow this. And I looked at Michael and I said, Michael, totally fine. I go, I'm totally different than Hulk. I mean, Hulk's going to give him his way. I go, we're going to give him a hit. I go, well, just watch. We went out there, we tore it down. We came in and Michael Hayes looked at me and goes, you're right. Because you're right. I go, man, I was confident. I go, I can't do what Hulk can do. I go, but he can't do what I can do. What we can do. So we went out there and wrestled. I mean, the match was just like boom, boom, boom. But you know, we would just go and go and go. We came back and and we got those people. Well, they were up, they were crazy. And Michael Hayes was like, you're right. So when you have that confidence going in, you know, man, we were just firing all cylinders. It wasn't like we were trying to prove something. I just knew that you couldn't touch us. I don't care who you were. You couldn't touch us. And started naming names. Not that we could touch them either, but like, you know, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, all those guys, they couldn't do what we were doing at that time.
It was just a different
thing.
A different era.
You know, not that we could do what they were doing and they were top of top and rightfully so. But man, we were just, God, man, it was real for us, man. Me and Eddie knew that, like, there was that line, man, that like Finley line. That was right there. Like one step over was real. Me, Angle, Benoit, we were kicking the shit out of each other. Like in there, like every night, but just the way it was. So when I watch now, like, pictures of people and they're posting, like, when they're wrestling Gunther and they're picking pictures of all their chests being all red and stuff and all these people, I'm like, that was every night. Like, there was not like, it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to post a picture of this. Of course, there wasn't social media like that back then, but we were like, I'm like, when I'm watching these guys, like, that was, my chest stopped getting red. Like from being chopped.
That was a Friday house show.
I mean, it stopped getting red from getting chopped by Benoit. Just like, I got immune to it almost, you know? Yeah. So, Like I see people post all that stuff. I'm like, I'm sure Gunther chops very, very hard, but I don't think anybody chopped harder than Benoit, except for like Ming, where you chop your heart out.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of chop.
Yeah.
But Ben, I mean, oh God, like it was, and Benoit he never would touch you in the ring. Like he was so smooth. He was so intense.
Yeah.
Of course, his Germans and his chops, but besides that, man, he was just, he was so good.
Do you have, for that, looking back at that, the SmackDown 6 thing, do you have more appreciation for it now, or when it was going on, you still knew it was good?
Definitely now. Then we knew it was good. We just knew that we were really good, like all six of us. We just knew that, like, Eddie and I would get in the ring and everybody shut up, listen to us. That's how it's going. That's what it was. Just shut up. We got this. But we working with these guys that we knew very well, so they trusted us. We trusted them.
Because you didn't have a relationship. You didn't have a relationship, obviously, yet, and with a Kurt or an Edge at that point. Obviously, you worked with Ray and you worked with Benoit quite a bit, but Kurt and Edge were kind of just new for you.
Yeah, I'd never worked with Kurt, and I just knew that Kurt was Kurt. He's one of the best. So this is how it started. So they put me and Eddie together on like a Velocity taping, whatever it was, and they put us, me and him, against Edge and a very young John Cena, who still had tights on.
Yeah.
So we came out and everybody was like, "Holy shit! What the?" Bischoff had come back. I remember Bischoff going, "Wow, you guys were good." And I'm like, "Guys, we've done this our entire lives." We were like, "Yeah, okay." But everybody, even Edge, was like, "Wow, man, that was like working with the Andersons or something. Man, you guys are just so good." And then I think it was the very next week, Eddie was still on Raw and I was on SmackDown. The next week, I'm in Toronto. I didn't even know Eddie was there. I get in Toronto. I go to the gym. Like, what was the gym we'd work at? The World Gym, something like that there. And I see Eddie in the gym. I go, "What's up, man? What are you doing here?" And he goes, "It's you and me tonight." I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "You and me tonight, main event of SmackDown TV versus Benoit and Angle." I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's go." So at the Maple Leaf Arena, man, it was packed, sold out. So we're main event. We have 2 segments. We go out there. We all tore it down. We come in the back, and Angle looks at me and goes, "What the hell was that?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, You kicked our asses in there." I'm like, "Well, what were you going to do to us?" He starts laughing. He goes, "Yeah, you're right." And from that moment on, it was go, go, go. They were like, these guys, they put us together and then started putting us 4 together. And then they added Ray and Edge into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And any combination, Paul Heyman, his genius in booking, he would just mix and match all of us all together. And we didn't know. We were just coming there and just going. And then people started saying SmackDown 6, and we didn't really know what that was. We're like, all right, we'll just put us in the ring. We're going to go. We didn't buy into all of the BS, man. We didn't. Now I look at it now, but back to your question, I look at it now and go, man, I wish I would have seen how good it was. It was, we were pretty good.
It wouldn't have just been another day at the office.
It was another day. That's what it was. It was like, all right,
looking at it now, how good it was, and how, especially with such a good group of guys, like good humans. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just guys that are you show up and you go, "Oh, here we go. Have to put this one together," kind of thing.
No, it was a pleasure, man. And we all knew, like, we were bringing it,
Yeah.
Edge and Mysterio were a little bit different working than Benoit and Angle. But we all knew that it was coming, and they knew it was coming. But at the same time, it was like we loved it. I don't know what it was. Like, you just loved, like, the hits and the suplexes. It was awesome, man. It was like we were,
like I say, it was the first time I was like, watching WWE my whole life at that point, obviously. And I was like, oh, this is wrestling. This is actually like I never really saw it. You saw it with Kurt and Benoit, here and there, obviously all the time during their stuff. But especially for 6 guys that, they weren't, like I said, they weren't the focus. You guys weren't the focus. So you made yourself that and known as that, even in tag stuff.
Yeah, and then we made, like, at the time, like I said, we didn't buy into, we just were just at a wrestling. It was just another day.
Yeah.
But that's when SmackDown was overtaking Raw, and Raw was Vince's baby.
Yep.
And Paul was making that SmackDown better, at least the matches, than Raw. And we of course not all of that. We had a part of it, but Rock and Hogan, and it was a great crew. Like SmackDown crew was just going, just give us the ball, let us run with it, and that's what we wanted. We didn't really care, like, give us the glory, or we need to be the champs. It wasn't about that. It was about we just wanted to have the best matches on the card each night. That was it. Follow us. We were like literally like follow that.
That has to be like the best feeling ever, of knowing you did it incredible, and being able to get to the back and almost like double birds everyone. Like, okay, show me why you're there and we're here.
Our chests were out for sure. We walked around knowing that we were the guys. We definitely did. It was awesome. It was cool.
So
good time, man.
You
I miss that a lot, because like you said, in that era,
you don't realize
in that time, you don't realize it. You just, like you said, one day in the office. But I miss going back. I wish that we would have been able to just really appreciate what we had. I know Eddie and I, one time we talked about it, about he and I, our tag team. This is probably right before he passed. And we're like, God, man, we didn't know what we had. Like, it was, we loved it. It was awesome. Yep. But now we look back at it, 2 years, it was a year and a half later. We're like, gosh, man, we were pretty good, man. It was cool.
So you go from that, and the highlight of wrestling at the time, to a few years later, a little bastard comes into the company, and then we'll give you the voted on worst feud of the year in 2009.
But why? I don't understand why we were on every single night. It was awesome.
It blows my mind, because I'm literally having it in my notes of, like, for me, it was probably the coolest part of my career, because the guest hosts every week, I was like, okay, who's going to be next week that we're going to be working with? Who's going to be this?
Exactly.
And it was like Cheech and Chong or Snoop Dogg, ZZ Top, Macaulay Culkin. Literally everybody. Guest host they had, we had something with them. From the blindfold or the bull rope or the boxing match, the tuxedo thing. It was always like, we had our segment. You and I always had it. And it was so fun to I didn't know what they were going. It was, I was going to show up to work the next week and go, okay, what are we possibly getting into this week? And then
none of us knew. Yeah. And it changed. And then it changed. Yeah. Like, it was, we got there, and kind of kept evolving and changing. Yeah.
And then every week they'd have me like, okay, what's my outfit that the seamstresses are going to get pissed off at that they have to make for me?
How are you beating me today? How are you screwing me today? It was great. I remember, because that was a one-time deal. They wanted us to work together one time.
It was like, I think it was the bull rope one.
No, I don't know. It was something. It was doing, and there was no stipulations. It was something here, and then you were gonna cheat and slip one over me or something like that. And I looked at Vince and I was like, well, why are we gonna do this one time? He's like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, why don't we it's a cool little thing. I want to keep it going. He's like, really? You'd like to do this? I was like, that ugly little motherfucker's awesome. Let's do it. So I just thought we could, I don't think I was doing something on TV at the time, and let's do it. I thought it was great. The internet guys that they're like, oh, this is the worst food. Now, why is it? I mean, it was entertaining
because it wasn't wrestling.
Because it wasn't wrestling, but it is wrestling. I mean, if you look at wrestling, that was the entertainment part of wrestling. And I say this today: we were wrestlers in the Guerreros. We were so focused on wrestling. That was drilled into my head. It was wrestling. And now being in, Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, and seeing, I always say that I wish I was in Hollywood before I was a pro wrestler, because I would have been a better pro wrestler. Learning how to really entertain as opposed to just wrestle. I get it. Wrestling. I get it. We could do that. But the entertainment thing, you look at guys like Cena, and I use Cena a lot because he figured it out. Jericho, those guys figured it out. Like, those guys are very entertaining. Could they wrestle? Sure. But they figured out the entertainment part, give Cena a mic and he's I don't think there was many better. Him,
Untouchable.
I mean, Rock was, up there, but those guys they had that, they understood what was really selling tickets. It was that, it wasn't their wrestling, it was their persona.
I think that was why people viewed it so like in the with blinders on, because they're used to Chavo being the wrestler's wrestler kind of thing. And then to take you out of that, and then put you in a role where you're, where getting pantsed and all of this, it wasn't the Chavo they were used to, but it was like so cool for me because it was that. It wasn't what they were used to. And for you to be so giving and just like, it was so fun. Every week was so fun of like, oh man, again, like we talked about right in the beginning of this, what are we going to do? And what do they have planned? How are they going to incorporate
How are we
us
gonna tweak
into it
and make it better? They're going to give us something.
Segment,
you and I
every
would make it better.
every week for 9 weeks in a row, we had a 10-minute segment on the show.
Yeah, what I liked about it, there was no ego involved in it. You and I just got in there. It wasn't like, hey, I'm losing to a little person. Or I didn't. It's a character. I'm playing a role in a movie.
Yeah,
and showing like okay, like there's no ego. Let's make this the best possible. And that's what I loved about that, because it was just another aspect of my career, showing like, okay, look, I can wrestle. You can see that, but I can also do this. I can entertain. I can make you laugh. I can still make you hate me in a different way.
I still remember the only time we did it on house shows was an international tour.
Right.
We did it twice. And the second night of it was the anniversary or whatever of Eddie's passing in France.
Oh, okay.
And they booed the shit out of me because you came out and you did the Eddie stuff. And then I came out and I still ended up beating you on the anniversary of his passing. I was like, and they just booed. I was like, oh my God, this is the weirdest feeling ever of like,
welcome.
And I was like, I didn't know how to take it, because at that point I was like the happy-go-lucky little guy, and then but now I'm beating you up on that day of all days.
That was awesome. It was great. I loved it. It was fun.
Was there a guest host that like stood out, whether working with or just like a pinch me moment of like, oh man, this is pretty awesome?
Oh man,
or a couple of them.
There were so many, but I say Snoop, man. Snoop. I
knew that was gonna be the answer.
But I was always such a Snoop fan before, and then work with him, and then see how cool he was. He was such a cool guy, and then working with him in the back and really trying to get him to clothesline me. I was like, bro, you got to clothesline, you got to hit me hard. He was like, I kept like harder. He was like harder. I say, I hit me as hard as you can, please. If you don't, it's not going to look good, So he's like, all right, and then afterwards, I went into his dressing room and said thank you, and got super high with him.
They had the testers for everyone the following week. Everyone had it.
Yeah, totally. So literally, we got there, and I go to his dressing room, and all of his boys were in there. So we're hanging, and he's like, man, he was so appreciative and so thankful, and still, if I see him to this day, man, he's like, hey, what's up, nephew? Like, he remembers it. He's awesome. Yeah. So we're back there, and then it was my birthday, and someone knocked on our door, and they had a birthday cake for me. And Snoop goes, oh, is that for me? I said, no, man, it's for me. He was like, wait a minute, is it your birthday? I said, yeah. He goes, it's my birthday. We have the same birthdays.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have a video of he and I smoking a big old blunt and then blowing out the cake together. It was pretty cool,
awesome.
Man. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's an awesome moment.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he was a good dude, man. It was really cool to see it, man. I was on it was not just being in the ring, because in the ring that clip still comes up. He'll post it sometimes. Yeah. And still comes up, and it was pretty cool to see. But hanging out with him, smoking with him, that was one of the highlights. Guys like Ricky Hatton, that was fun. So many. I mean, Bob Barker. That was
Bob
rad.
Barker one is still easily the best guest host that they ever did.
That was fun.
How fast, how quick he was with everything, with literally everything.
He was great. Cedric the Entertainer. You know what? I look back now, so now knowing what I know now. Yeah. And I just talked about this the other day to somebody. I was doing a signing somewhere, and for some reason, somebody brought it up, but it's going around kind of when Rey Mysterio, I made him helped Booker T beat him for the World Heavyweight Championship, where Ken came in the ring, and I was being Rey Mysterio's like friend, came in and went to go swing a chair at Booker, but then hit Ray, and Booker beats him. Well, I don't know what's going around right now. It's like it's somebody posting this gets this on the internet everywhere. So, I look at it and I was great. But I remember when we came back, Vince looked at me and goes, "You didn't pause enough." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "You should have stepped and you should have looked at Booker and waited like 5 seconds and then hit Ray." And you're not going to argue with Vince. Like, okay. I look at it now and I'm like, nah, Vince was wrong. He was 100% wrong. Like that was not the way to do it, especially when you're playing off two people. When you come in and he's looking at me and he's feeding me already, and I'd sit there and stare at him, then I'm telegraphing the whole world telling you,
correct,
I'm not going to hit him. I'm going to hit him. But when I looked at Booker and I went and I reacted quick because Ray was feeding me up already. They were both feeding. You got to play off two people.
Yeah.
I look at it now and I said, Vince was wrong. So, but it's his company. So he's going to, he's right because it's his company. You're going to do what he says. But I look back at it now and I'm like, you're wrong, man. And I would argue with him to this day on that. So
exactly.
You're wrong. Yeah.
Just when we thought then we would never cross paths again, we would a couple of years later, unbeknownst to the fans, as you were the man behind the swagger soaring eagle.
But there was a lot of them though. That's what versus. It was Chavo. No, it was
Sami Zayn. I think Sami Zayn did it.
Jamie Noble did it. Hawkins. I think Hawkins did it. I don't know. There was a lot of people that kind of did it.
Yeah.
Now I was like the main guy on it, but I was like, they came to me. We want you to do this, and I was like, "What? Are you serious?" Like, so and I was like, "Okay." It's like it's like the Kerwin White gimmick. It's like you got two options. You could either do it or not do it, and possibly get fired. So,
or just not be on the show,
or not on the show.
Very,
so I was like,
very simple.
Yeah, exactly. So we did it, and you and I were doing. You were Fox smashing me again. It was awesome.
Literally just came up in my head again today. I was like, "Oh man!" Well, then we had that whole thing. Awesome. Yeah. And again, like exactly what you said, it's kind of like things I live by now. Is 100% what you said. You could do it and kind of be irritated going into it, and possibly after, or you could put a stink up and get let go, or just not be featured at all. And then that time goes to someone else.
You're back in the shuffle,
correct.
So it's like it's very much like Hollywood, to where so I was at one of the award shows, like the SAG Awards, and Robert De Niro gets up and he's talking about it, saying, sometimes you're just searching for that next gig, that next job, and you're always trying to get what's next, because before you know it, if you're not working, you're not on people's minds. So even if Robert De Niro is saying this, I mean, gosh, of course it's going to be us. Well, wrestling's the same way. So unless you're their champ, whoever, the Batistas, the Cenas, the Takers, whatever, they're not writing for them. They're not writing for us. They're writing for them. So when they come up with something for you, you can either take it and try to make, what they say, chicken soup out of chicken shit, or what it's called, like that.
Chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Chicken salad, yeah. But or you can say no, and then you're shuffled back in, and if you keep shuffling back in, you're not there. You're going to be gone. So there's so many times that you just take something, and hopefully you can make it into something good, or just keep going. And that's what that's what we were doing all half the time. I mean, a lot of those points in my career were like that, to where it was like, all right, well, they put you in this gimmick. Let's try to make it work. I'm on TV. I'm getting a paycheck, and keep yourself in the game. So, that's kind of what it was.
If you're off TV, that's the worst thing. If you're off the show and you're getting forgotten, that's worse.
Yeah, you're not making money.
You're still in people's minds. You're seeing, if you're on, no matter what you're doing, you're still in people's minds, and they're still remembering that moment.
And then we were still. It wasn't like I was off and then home. I was still at TV, just not working,
which was the worst. And sitting in catering, sitting in the locker room all damn day.
And I'm on every house show, so I'm working 280 days a year, whatever it is. We're working a ton, but you're not on TV, so it's kind of like, all right, well, I'm working, but I'm not, because I'm not in a big program. My house show pay is lower because you're not meaning as much to the show. So I'm still there doing what I'm doing, but you're just not getting paid enough, the same. So it's like, Yeah, people don't realize that. It's like, get yourself on TV, and once you're on TV, then your house show is going to be more significant. You're going to make more money. You're going to, and it's not like I was sitting at home just waiting to get paid. I was there.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So you brought up, the Hollywood stuff and all of that as of late. And so moving forward to recent times, you've been the one to transition to the Hollywood role in first Glow and then your huge role with Young Rock. How does that all come along?
That was kind of just happened. My uncle Mondo had transitioned from wrestling into stunts, and then there's a guy, Judo Gene LaBelle, one of the most famous, for probably the first MMA guy around there, but one of the baddest men in the world. But he was pro wrestler, but really known for stunts. He was the wrestling guy in Hollywood, and I've known Gene since I was 5 years old. So what happened was I went to TNA after I left WWE. I went to TNA for a year, and then kind of just left wrestling. I was kind of like, disgruntled with TNA, after being there, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. But it was the TNA back then. I don't know how the TNA is now, but back then it was definitely just a play toy for Dixie in a sense.
Yep.
We had a great locker room, and I was ready. I thought we were going to be, contenders, but that wasn't designed for that. But I kind of left wrestling, and then Lucha Underground called. So then I became a producer on Lucha Underground, and really realized like, God, man, I know a lot of wrestling that I didn't know I knew. And then I got a little role on a show called Grimm. Grimm was on like an NBC, I believe. So they had asked me, hey, can you play this role, but also it's got a wrestling partner. Can you wrestle and choreograph all the wrestling? I'm sure. So once I figured that, I can do this. And it just kind of happened, man. Glow kind of happened. Then after Glow, then my name started getting out there, and then going to Young Rock, and then Heels and Iron Claw. So really now in Hollywood, and then what happened was Gene was getting older, and he started passing things on him. He's like, oh, call Chavo. Chavo's the guy now. He's the man now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. And he kind of passed me the torch.
To be the guy that they kind of turned to for any wrestling stuff or stunt stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Any wrestling related projects kind of going through me, and which is kind of cool. I love being behind the camera so much. I've been on camera. We've done all that.
Yep.
I love being behind the camera and creating and seeing a project go from like a script, an idea, to actually seeing it put on camera after training the actors and working with, DPs and directors and producers and really all of these moving parts. It's really cool. It fuels my, control freakness.
Yeah.
Control freak, and it really it lets me get in there and actually lets me kind of take over everything.
I have that same feeling. So I train students now, and whenever they have their first match in front of a crowd, not just a camp match of sorts, whenever they have their first match in front of a crowd and it comes off well, it's always like, you have kids, I have my son. It's always like seeing them score a touchdown or hit their first ball. It's like, oh my God, you're more nervous for them than they are doing it. They're just going through the motion and they're nervous as heck, but we're nervous as heck because now it's representing us and we just want everything to go off without a hiccup and that kind of thing.
So much so, like I do that with my, any actors I'm working with. Like I'll use, like a Zac Efron on Iron Claw. It was like, training, he was such a cool guy and training him, but having him execute the things in the ring and execute it to a very high level, man, I was so proud, man. Every time I see him, I'd be like a hug, man. It was like my child. I was like, bro, you did it, man. You did it. And he was so, to see their happiness and see how excited they are, because it's unlike anything they've ever done before. It's pretty cool.
Did he turn into a wrestling fan more so spending time around it, or was it a job? Oh, what it is?
No, huge, man. They not that they didn't have respect before that. Of course they do. But once they really, they really do what we're doing in a sense. And so, and we're not training for a WrestleMania match, but I'm training to look like wrestlers in a scene, which is sometimes easier, but sometimes harder because they're filming. Okay. I can go do a 20-minute match. Let's do it. 20 minutes. I'm done. But they're filming this 45-second sequence or a minute sequence for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Over and over and over in different time, and then going to lunch, coming back and filming it again. So they're filming it over. It's really taxing. It's really, really hard because they say they put in 3 bumps. Well, we filmed it 10 times. It's 30 bumps that these guys are doing that aren't bumpers. So it's sometimes it's harder and more demanding than wrestling, and it's just different for sure. But to see these guys, it's like Jeremy Allen White, the Bear. They really got it. They really got what wrestling was. And I remember a interview with Jeremy, and he was talking about, he goes, I got done with this scene and I was still in the moment, and Chavo pulls me aside afterwards. Okay, we got to reshoot that. He goes, man, that's when you really got to fire up. He's like, fire up. I'm spent. I'm done. He's like, no, that's more important than those moves. Yeah. And that's when Jeremy was like, I actually started realizing that the time in between those moves is almost more important than the moves themselves. And I say, exactly. And that's what I always would tell students and tell wrestlers, guys, the things you do in between all these spots or these moves, that's what makes a good wrestler a great wrestler.
So Hawkins talks about how he was training Rock for his Mania match. He was flying down to Louisiana to do Rock training for the match with Cena. And he goes, it was so different, and I didn't understand it at first. But he goes, Rock would do like a punch, and he'd go, he'd like, pantomime the crowd reaction, and then he'd do another move, and he'd break, and he'd pant. He goes, he wasn't just going through the match. He could figure it out in his head. He could see, because working on the movies and on the Hollywood sets of what are the reaction spots going to be? What is it? And so let's take the break for that and really focus on what the reactions would be at that time, and not just go through move to move to move to move to move.
Yeah, the fans, they want to be involved in your match. They want to be a part of it.
A chance.
You have to let them. It's almost like a stand-up comedian. You have to let them laugh at your jokes before you hit another joke. You have to have that pause. But it's different every single night. So you have to. There's two. You can't beg the crowd like, cheer for me, please. But at the same time, when they are cheering, you have to give them that moment. There's such a happy medium. And in wrestling, that's really what it is. And every crowd's going to be different. Every night's going to be different. But you have to learn how to adapt for all of that. You have to really learn, be in that ring and say, okay, if they're not popping here, well, then I have to, let me fill that space with with a move or with a reaction or with something. And then sometimes you don't want, it's so complex, such an art form. You don't want them to pop and react to sometimes. You want to let them be quiet. Cause I remember Eddie telling me one time, like, sometimes you have to bring them down before you can bring them back up again. Almost like a roller coaster. You can't just be like,
always, because otherwise you have nothing to build to. Yeah.
So, there's points in the match where you want it to be quiet. Like in a conversation, if you're having a conversation, there's a natural lulls in a conversation. But some people don't like that, and they have to fill that conversation with talk. They feel weird if there's quietness. Sometimes it's okay for the quietness to be there. It adds to that conversation. And same thing with the match. Sometimes it's okay for them to be quiet and not reacting, or we're just watching. They're reacting by watching. They're silent at a time when they should be silent.
Is there something from the producing and filming of Young Rock that stands out, like a funny incident or moment that you can think of like,
oh yeah, man, there was a really
where
cool
something came together, or was just like, or even again, I talk about a lot on here, like pinch me moments. I live by pinch me. I'm old.
Yeah,
you're older, obviously.
Right.
I live by like pinch me moments, looking back at things and like, oh man, that no one else might have gotten something out of that, but it was really, really cool to me.
Yeah, there was this one part. So we were filming Young Rock. I believe it was season 1. Were we 1? I think we were in Brisbane filming season 1. And so first season was filmed in Brisbane, Australia for 3 months. And the second season was filmed in Gold Coast for like 5 months. Because of the Hollywood being shut down because of like COVID and stuff, everything was shut down. We were greenlit, so we had to find a place to go. We ended up filming there. So we had casted, wrestlers and different actors and stuff in these roles. Well, there was a guy there that had a little wrestling organization, and I had known him from before, from wrestling with him from before. And, I brought him in as a referee. So I was like, okay, I don't have to worry about this guy. It's all good. So there was this big wrestling sequence, a lot of moving parts. We were filming with 5 cameras at the time. There was a lot of moving parts in there. So I figured, okay, I don't really have to worry about him too much. Well, it was like a 3.5 minute segment going through, and everything was popping, everything was going good. And at the very end, that guy, he was the referee, he messed up and ruined the shoot, ruined that whole shot. And I looked at, and the director, who was Natasha Khan, who was a creator as well, who is not Tony Khan's, but Nick Khan's sister. So she was creator of Young Rock, one of the creators. So she was directing this again. She kind of looks at me, and I was like, hold on. I'm like, I'm under the gun here. I go, hold on a second. And I go into the ring, and I was really cool about it. And one of the other actors that was in there, but heard the whole thing, and he was like, Chavo, that was awesome. So there's a crowd in there, everything I stopped production. I went in there for real quick, and I kind of whispered to him, hey man, I was trying to be cool about it because I wanted to go, no. Yep. I was like, hey, I go, hey man, when you're a wrestling show and, you got a show going on and your referee messes up and kind of messes up your main event. He goes, yeah. I go, well, what do you do when that happens? He goes, I go ape shit. I said, yeah. I go, that's exactly what just happened right now. And I go, you messed up this shoot. I go, so look, bro, you're the one that I'm expecting to be right on it. And I shouldn't have to worry about this. He's like, you're right. I mean, there's 150 people in there, and I kind of stopped her, and I'm kind of whispering to him just loud enough that he could hear it, but I don't want to job him out in front of everybody. Yep. And I go, we got to shoot this again, man, but I really need you to be on it. He was like, I got you. I was like, all right, cool. So then we're filming again, and everything's popping. Now I'm really nervous because I'm now under the gun. And all of these parts are going on. I mean, I'm like, there's the director, I'm the stunt coordinator, wrestling coordinator, and there's producers and stuff there. But this is my shoot. Even though the director's saying action stop, they're looking at me like they're expecting me to have everything going. So it's going, and I'm like biting my nails, like, okay, that's pop, that worked, okay, this worked, okay, that all worked. And at the very end, one of my actors, like he messed up. He covers the other actor when the actor's on his stomach, and covers him. And I'm like, no. And that same referee guy pulls him off, and the guy and covers for him so that makes the right cover, and 1, 2, 3. And pop. I was like, oh my God, thank God. And I go, he made he saved that shoot. So he just went from ruining that shot to saving the shot. So I went after him. I go, bro, you redeemed yourself, bro, because you just saved that shot. And he was like, oh God, thank God. The director looked at me, and she was like, that was thumbs up. That was awesome. And I was like, whew. All right. Next shoot.
Yeah. So with that,
awesome.
Are you, because it's actors, portraying wrestlers, are you going through, okay, so let's say if you have a multi-person thing there, are you working out, okay, in this corner, you guys are doing this section, and that's a day of just, or, a couple hours of just working that part, and then working out this side of the ring too, and working out with that? Or is it kind of piece by piece where you doing it?
I put it all together, very piece by piece, but then I have to marry them together. And like I said, when this is going through, we had a battle royal shot, which was so difficult. It was 20, 25 people in the ring,
and all actors.
And all actors. And I had a couple guys that were MMA guys, or a couple guys that were kind of wrestler guys that were like local guys. So I would have them doing spots and stuff. But I had explained to everybody, because everybody wants to steal the scene. I said, guys, this is going on. I need you here. This is going on. I need you here. I can't have you doing. I mean, it was like my wrestling OCD kicked in, like my Rain Man shit. I was like, okay, I was putting all these things together, man. And so I had it all together. And then on the day of the shoot, I got there about an hour before everybody got there. And I was just in the ring by myself, kind of going through everything and seeing where all the cameras were going to be, and seeing, okay, so then I would make little mental tweaks. So then when I got everybody in the ring, I would make a little couple tweaks here. Okay, I need you to do this. Okay, stay here. So the moving parts was like, it would be like, Battle Royal in WWE, where no one knew what they were doing. And you had to make sure everybody was in their same spots. Once one person's out of position, that's kind of screwed everything up, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, we did. That was a pretty big one. And that went off without a hitch. That was, thank God. It could have been disastrous.
Yeah.
Went off
that many moving parts
perfectly. We filmed it. We budgeted a whole day to film it, and we filmed it within like 4 hours. We went on to the next shot, and I remember Jeff, our director, looked at me and he was like, "Bro, you did it." He was like, "We actually you saved us 2 hours. Let's go." I was like, "Oh, that's huge." I'm there to save production time and money. And for save them a couple of hours, that's massive.
Especially them going into it thinking it would be such a task and such a thing, and then it actually coming off like that. And
I remember season 3 filming in Memphis, and I had a really good a compliment by one of the assistant directors, and she goes, Chavo, she goes, I thought filming wrestling was going to be the hardest part of the show. She was like, I didn't know how we were going to do it. She says, after working with you, it's the easiest part. And I was like, really? She was like, you have everything, like you have it dialed in. We're just saying action and cut. Like you're doing everything. And I was like, that's my job. So it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool, man. I was like, man, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Moving to even more recent, a good friend of ours, Mike Kinnick, and the man behind
Kanicki.
Major Bendy's. Yeah, Kinnicky.
Yeah.
He says, all right, make sure to talk about both of your love for me. And he's just the most incredible human that's ever come into my life.
His whole family's great. His whole family's great. They really are.
The best.
All super talented guys. I was really good friends with his older brother, Chris, who invented Smart Cups. Is just this genius.
The golden child of the family.
Yeah, right. But then you got Mike killing it. Just like they're awesome. They're really, really cool family. But it was really cool to see how that whole world has kind of come together, and Mike's now the guy creating all, the Major Bendy's things and everything.
Everything.
And he's a little drunk like you are, so.
That goes into the final thing I was going to bring up. What I was thinking about when I did a couple notes for this, I was like, man, you know what I always like? He was always the dependable one. Not just in ring or on camera. When you get to the hotel, especially on an international tour, and you drop your bags and you go, I don't want to go to bed yet. I'm gonna meander down to the lobby bar. And it was always the first person I would lock eyes with and get a little wink from was you. Every time. There was never a time where I remember going down to the lobby bar and you not being there and just has a smile on your face. And I was like, okay, tonight's going to be another good one.
Yeah. Oh, bro. Well, that was the thing. That's
that's our relapse.
If I just sat in, especially on those European tours, if you're just in your room, man, God, it's like it's monotonous. I mean, the release is like going down there and having a beer or two with the boys and just talking about the night and just like blowing off steam a little bit.
Yep.
I know you don't have to stay there till 3 a.m, but you can just blow off a little steam there. You don't know where the night's going to take you. It could be a little quickie. It could be all night long,
3 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But that was always just like a great part. And seeing, Finley would always be down there and have a pint with him. And
the amount of time me, you, and Fit, I think that was probably the most, like the time I've spent with most people was the 3 of us literally just seated at the bar and just, definitely you two were always the ones I could depend on to be down there.
Well, that's what you learn. You learn all the business on those car rides, in the bar like that, and just talking shop, hearing Finley's stories. I mean, he's got so many of them, and all the times that he spent in Germany and stuff. And man, it was just really cool to, learn from guys like that. Like I always say, like, people are like, Chavo, you know a lot. I go, well, I had some really good teachers. I mean, I had some of the best of all time taught me, not just my family, like, I say Finley and Regal and, Kurt Hennig and Arn, and I mean, I could go on and on. Steve Kern. I mean, all of these guys that were just gurus of this business, they're kind of my teachers that really took me under their wing.
I always say, like, man, I worked as the son, and I really felt like his son with Fit.
You were.
And like, it was the coolest thing ever looking back on it, because easily one of the smartest humans when it comes to wrestling and just life stuff too. Is what he taught me. It's just, man, I'm so grateful for just all the time I got to spend literally as his son.
I loved going down there, and because it'd be like, hey, we would give you shit, like, but nobody else would give you shit. Man, like, hey, we would mess with you all the time, but nobody else could mess with you. Yeah.
I talk about it in the book. I was like, oh, you like, because you came up, I came up during like the end of the hazing, but the hazing was still going on, and I was like, I never got it because I think people literally viewed me as Fit's son so much that they were like, I'm not going to mess with Dylan. I'm not going to do that. Like,
well, you are.
I'm not going to deal with Fit.
You are our like a little brother, man, and
I was so young. I was like, I was a child. I was a 19, 20-year-old kid. I should have been like put through the ringer, but I think people were fully afraid to mess with Fit.
Well, and we just knew that we would mess with you a lot, and we would always be screwing with you, but nobody else would. And I remember those times when somebody else was doing that, we'd be like hounds on the person. No, you need to leave.
Well, man, thank you for sitting down. You don't do a ton of these, and I appreciate you coming to hang out and just having some laughs. So thank you, man.
Bro, man, it's always a good time catching up with you, man. And remembering, I was all the boys that were the brothers with that were the boys that were our friends that we don't get to see all the time, maybe at a WrestleCon or something like that now, but get together and sit down and chop it up a little bit. I love it, man.
It's so cliche, but it's like everyone always says you see them in person and it's literally, you might not see them for 10 years and you see them in person and it's literally like you saw them yesterday. It's that exact thing. And it's the exact thing that I'm realizing is a real situation.
I mean, totally. What's my first thing to you is like, "What's up, ugly motherfucker?" You're like, "What's up, old motherfucker?" Always, it's the same thing. Always, old bastard.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it very much. Guys, let's talk about Mad Cat Beard Care. They make my beard feel soft, silky smooth, and they can do the same for yours. A one-man show since 2019, Mad Cat uses a portion of their sales to care for local stray cats. That money covers their medical bills and finds them safe spaces and forever homes. Their products are made to order with vitamins and all-natural oils that promote strong, healthy hair and moisturize your skin as well. They've got exclusive scents for myself, as well as other wrestlers like my good pal Brian Myers, Mr. Kennedy, and Ring of Honor legend Delirious. Make sure to check out all of their scents, along with my Swoggle scent, which has notes of lavender and sage. I absolutely love this scent. And guys, we've got an exclusive offer for listeners of Going Postl. Use promo code SWOGGLED to save yourself 15% on your orders only at madcatbeardcare.com. That is Swoggled with a D on the end to save yourself 15% on your orders at madcatbeardcare.com. Guys, that's 15% with promo code SWOGGLED. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard. Well, that was an interview. That was a fun one. We covered everything.
You can't come out of the interview and just go, well, that was an interview.
Everything. We covered everything from Macaulay Culkin to having some extracurricular activities with Snoop Dogg, to the swagger soaring eagle and everything in between. Man, I cannot thank Chavo enough for, like I always say with these, is like, I'm just happy that these guys want to take time out of their day and just sit down and have a small talk, as people say. Thanks for listening to the episode. Thanks for listening to the interview. Now it's time for plugs. I'm going to get some plugs in at Dylan Postl on all forms of social media, dylanpostl.com for all things me, patreon.com/PodXchange. That is PodXchange. This show, State of Affairs, where I continuously get to treat Joe Shoes like the lapdog he is. Like the lapdog he is. Put that scoreboard up, and I am, like always, on top, baby. But anyways, it's this show. It's State of Affairs. And it's our friends over at the Game Marks podcast. That's my friend George. And our other friend, Johnny Clash, which on this show, we call him Carouse.
It's very weird when you throw it to yourself to do the carouse.
So this is
honestly, you're on a roll.
This is how I'm trying. Every week I try to just, like in life. You know what? Like in life, I live by surprising people. I live by people thinking nay and me thinking yay.
We want to thank you for hanging out with us this week, listening to this small talk, hanging out with us every week for all the shows, Going Postl, State of Affairs, and the Game Marks podcast. And there's nothing else for you to do, Dylan, except to that signature sign-off you do every week, man.
Let me say this. If you decide in your life, if you get an email saying you have availability for free upgraded hardware for your Spectrum internet, ignore it. Do not try to install it yourself. I tried that today, and it kicked me right in the pants. I was not happy. I spent 2 hours trying to figure this out. I was not happy. So if you are like me, and you have Spectrum internet, which is great internet, I love their internet. I really, really am happy with their internet. But if they decide to email you and go, hey, you have an upgrade for free for a new modem, new router, make your internet even better, ignore it. Throw it in the trash. Then empty the trash. Don't try to do it yourself. Guys, this has been Going Postl.